So, welcome and hello there. Today I want to talk about the biggest news Star Wars Armada has had in a while. And as you can see, this is a screenshot from the Ion Radio video covering the panel at World Cup of Star Wars Armada. And we got confirmed that this summer is coming Rapid Reinforcements 2. And I wanted to talk about what I think is going to be in the Rapid Reinforcements 2 and also what my wishes for the game are to have on top of Rapid Reinforcements 2. But that is going to be in the later part of the video. So I want to start with the most obscure thing of the probably 4 cards that are coming. Why do I think it's 4 cards? Ion Radio had also had an interview with one of the designers from AMG. And he said that Rapid Reinforcements 2 would be in a smaller scale than Rapid Reinforcements 1 was. And since we only have this preview image right now, and he said it would be a smaller scale, and Rapid Reinforcements 1 was only 7 cards, it would make sense that this one would be probably somewhere around 4 cards, 1 for each faction. And I don't think we are going to see new ships that are cross-faction play. Again, because of his commentary that was, well, it's going to be smaller scale. So the first thing we can see here that we have the least information about, which is obviously the most interesting thing for me, is that we can see Watambor right here in the artwork in one of the Belbulab fighters. And to be talking about what I expect for a Watambor squadron, I'm gonna jump over to the Ryan Kingston Fleet Builder. If you don't know it, I'm gonna put it in the description. It's, in my opinion, the best fleet builder out there for Armada. It's completely free. It's very good. So I had one open. Here we have the standard Belbulab, and then of course the General Grievous Belbulab that is already in the game. And I think looking at what AMG has done up until now with squadrons, they are probably gonna keep the same keywords than the standard one, so probably Relay 1, maybe even as General Grievous as well, an upgrade to Relay 2, and I think he's also gonna keep Screen. Regarding speeds and hull points, they never get changed, so I suppose there's gonna probably Watambor is gonna have speed 4 and 5 hull as well. And then looking at the anti-ship dice, I probably would reckon they are going to keep them as they are, or maybe swap one of the blacks for red to just spice things up. I also really hope for the anti-black, the anti-ship black dice that General Grievous gets over the standard Belbulab, because the blue anti-ship is just really bad for, well, a pricey squadron. And then coming to price, if you look at Grievous, he's 22 points, and I believe that Watambor is probably going to be around somewhere 18 to 20 to 22, depending on what they do with the actual text on him. Regarding defense tokens, it's probably going to be a double brace as well, because as you think to it, like a 5 hull squadron won't have scatter. None of the Armada 5 hull squadrons has scatter. And then the only other squadron defense token that comes to mind is an evade. And evade wouldn't make much sense since the thing already has screen, so it will gain up to dodge 3, would already be like 3 evades. So putting an evade on top of that wouldn't make much sense in my opinion. So we're gonna probably see Watambor with a double brace. And then regarding his effect, I also have come up with something I think would be reasonable. So to me, Watambor is one of the more selfish guys from Star Wars Armada, and he's like a villain, so I could see something like the Bix effect, but in small, so something that would read: when you suffer damage, before you suffer damage, you may reduce the damage total by 1, then another friendly squadron at distance 1 suffers 1 damage, so basically he could shift the damage off of himself, which would work very well in tandem with Screen, making him very hard to kill. I think that's probably somewhere along the lines that we're gonna see with this one, because like Watambor, the captain we already have, shifts damage from another ship, like he takes shields from another ship and puts them on himself, so shifting damage to something else from him would also make sense in my opinion to have there. Then, whoopsie, wrong window. Going back to this one, obviously we have Governor Price. I won't talk much about Governor Price because the card is all spoiled for you there. If you want to, you can read her. There has been a lot of discussion about her, putting her on an onager, putting her on different ships. I think she's going to be great. No discussion there. Again, if you wanna read her, just read her. For me, the more important bits are those two bits over here. So if we come on, give me this one. So if we look at this, and if we look at this, there are two other cards that are already spoiled a bit. If we start with the left one, which is for me the one that is a bit better to read, we can see that is down here it's a gauntlet fighter, so one of the Mandalorian fighters, and then it's also for the Rebels faction, so a bit crossplay here. We can also see that it has two keywords, and I think the top one looks much like the assault keyword we can see over here on the normal Mandalorian gauntlet fighter. That looks like the same icon. But then if we look at the bottom icon, it doesn't look like the rogue keyword we have here. It much more looks like the escort keyword on, for example, Black Squadron or the TIE Advance. And that would make much sense in my opinion, because that would also work very well with Hera Syndulla from the first Rapid Reinforcements, and it would make sense to me that they would try and do some synergy with the first Rapid Reinforcements. Regarding, again, speed and all of that, I guess it's probably going to keep the same stats as the normal Gauntlet has, so speed 4 and 7 hull. Also looking at the defense tokens, I would probably think it's gonna be either like Gar Saxon, so a single brace, or maybe a brace and an evade. I don't think it's gonna be double brace, because if you look at other stuff, like Morna Key has also 7 HP, only has a brace, like 1. If you look at, actually I don't particularly remember, if we look at the other Hera, yeah, the Hera and Ghost also has 8 hull and only has 1 brace. But then we have stuff like Lando or Han in the Millennium Falcon having 7 HP and double brace. So I could see either 1 brace or again double brace or brace and an evade. That would make sense to me. Going back to the Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter, Assault, as we all know it, is the one where you spend a hit icon if you're attacking a ship, and you then get to assign a raid token to the defender. Here I hope again that they're gonna go more like Gar Saxon with a blue and a black anti-ship, because the double blue anti-ship is very unreliable, and you don't, I mean, with Hera you have a good source to fix that with the escort, and if you have the other Hera, she gives you adept 1, so you might get to reroll one of the dice, but still I think blue-black would be much better, just to make that assault more reliably work. And then if we go back here again and we scroll a bit, and now I know the quality isn't very good, but I think the first word is going to be a when, then the word here could be command. We have something with choosing and distance or discarding, but I think this is distance. And then as if. So I feel like this one could have one of those effects that AMG already tried with the first Rapid Reinforcements, that when you get activated, which was the old Hera Syndulla, like the new Hera Syndulla, but her pre-errata effect was when you get activated, every other squadron with escort at distance 1 to 2 would gain adept for that round. So I think something here would be when you activate by a command from a ship, maybe something like that. You may choose an enemy at distance 1 to 2. We could see either a squadron or a ship. Shit. I can't talk. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. You may choose an enemy ship at distance something and spend something as if it were spent. Or what I could see other is that you may choose a friendly squadron at distance, maybe 1 to 2, and activate it as if something something. We could also see, if you look at Jendon, I think his text is very similar, that if we bring up Jendon over here, he says, during your activation, instead of attacking, you may choose one friendly squadron at distance 1 to 2. That squadron may perform an attack even if it has already activated. So I think we might see something here that works kind of like Jendon, but maybe with an activation. So maybe she can just toggle her activation slider and then make another squadron activate again, even though it had already activated, like a Adar Talon of sorts, which is of course the 10-point captain that lets you toggle the activation slider of a squadron you just activated. So maybe she gives another squadron a second activation. I could see that. Would be very powerful, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her somewhere, if she has that effect, somewhere way above the Gar Saxon. So if we go back, we can see Gar Saxon is 23 points. If she has the effect that she can give another squadron a second activation, I think she would be somewhere around 27 to 30 points, maybe even. Like very pricey, but also would be a very, very good effect. Now regarding the one on the right side, we can see that it costs 29 points and it's for the Republic, so it's probably gonna be an Admiral, because that price range normally is reserved for Admirals. And then for me the biggest giveaway is we can see this guy back here. And that guy is a 501st Trooper. He's a bit blue, and I think this thing here, I don't know if you can see it very well in the video, but to me it looks like this shoulder guard plate thingy that Captain Rex wears. So it would make sense for me to have this guy being Captain Rex. And if the guy in the background is Captain Rex, well, who's going to be in the foreground? Well, obviously, in my opinion, it's going to be Anakin Skywalker. And that would make a lot of sense for me to be a Anakin Skywalker, because if you look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi card, you can also see we have Commander Cody in the background. And also regarding that, we already have 2 Anakin Skywalker squadrons. It would make a lot of sense for me that they would also make an Admiral. So you really have to choose which one of the Anakin Skywalkers you want to take. Because I feel like that has been a big thing in the rapid reinforcements for E.m.a as of yet, is that they just brought new stuff that is already in the game, but with a different card now, so you get to choose, do I want to have the one or the other one? And since we have seen Anakin Skywalker be a really, really good squadron, like the new squadron is like the terror of every other squadron in the game. He's just very, very good. He's given, like, he's almost a must include in every Republic squadron list. So I would see the thinking behind bringing another Anakin into the game for E.m.a would be like, well, now you gotta choose. Do you take like the best squadron, or do you take like, and like this is gonna be a prediction, but do you take like the best Admiral? Because Republic already has a bunch of good Admirals. I think the top tier is probably Bail Organa, Luminara, Unduli, and depending on the fleet, maybe Yularen or Tarkin. But I think Luminara and Bail are like the top. Plo Koon is also good, but I think, yeah, the top is like Luminara and Bail, and like having a third one in there for 29 points would make a lot of sense. Also in the more pricey range of Admirals, but him having a really good ability would make up for that. And I feel like what Gar is currently lacking a lot is either something that may enable your ships that have like really horrible nav charts to nav better, or to have something that gives your ships extra dice, because that is also an Admiral we don't yet have on the Republic side. We have one for Imperium, the Bromedy, we have Martuk and TF, so even 2 Admirals for CIS, and it would make sense for the Republic to have one as well. And then what we can see here is he has 2 effects, which is, or I think he's gonna have 2 effects, because there's like this space in between the 2 texts. And the first one is probably friendly and attack. So my prediction is that he's gonna give your friendly ships something on their attack, or maybe it could also be squadron. But for me, looking at the Clone Wars, Anakin as Admiral always was about those ships, like the episode where he himself flew like the stealth ship through a blockade, or the episode where he flew his own Venator into the enemy flagship, destroying the enemy flagship over Ryloth. So I think Anakin as an admiral would make way more sense to have like an effect for your ships. And then the bottom one I really don't know yet what it would be. So it's friendly assets. I don't know. I don't think asset is a word often seen in Armada text. Then may blah blah blah. I don't know. Like the bottom one really doesn't speak to me. But the top one, in my opinion, is going to be friendly ship, and when it attacks, it may do something. So we might see something like Governor Price, where you get to spend a shield to add a die, or spend a shield to fix a die, just for every friendly ship. That one I would really like spending a shield to add a dice on your attack would be very, very cool for Gar, I think, because then you could make like really cool swivel mount builds, really cool SWAT builds for like the Venator having a SWAT or the Victory having a SWAT-T, and then you get to add another black dice, driving down those black crit effects at medium to long range. That would be very good in my opinion. So yeah, that has been my breakdown of the rapid reinforcements 2 that are coming. Unfortunately, as discussed earlier, I think all we're gonna get is those 4 cards. I would have loved to see more cross-faction ships. I want to go into why I don't think we're gonna see more cross-faction ships, and that is they're very limited. So I think the only thing that really makes sense to have another cross-faction ship is going to be a Republic Architans, because we've seen the Republic actually use Architans in the Clone Wars series, and I think the Architans could also have another very good role in the Republic fleets as being like a Squadron 2 thing that still can carry some squadrons. I could see one variant having like a black die on the side more than the Imperial one has, and then a red die less, and then having like a ordnance slot as well. I could see one having a blue die on the side and the red die is less, and then having like an ion cannon slot, for example. So I think E.m.a is probably holding off on the Republic Architans because they maybe want to do an actual kit, because as they did with, well, that was FFG before them, but the Pelta, you could have also done the Pelta as a cross-faction ship just to print and play, but people loved the Republic Pelta, and I think the Republic Pelta is probably one of the ships that sold best for the Clone Wars factions, because like having 2 of them is just a no-brainer, and then I've seen people run like 5 of them, and yeah, so I think the Architans would sell very well for E.m.a as like a standalone Architans for the Republic, which is why I don't think they're gonna bring that as a cross-faction ship. And then I don't think we're gonna see more cross-faction for Imperial and for Republic, for Imperial and Rebellion, because again, like the only other ship for the Imperials that would be like an old Clone Wars ship would be, in my opinion, the Acclamator. That would make sense, like lore-wise, because the Imperium used Acclamators as like transport ships. But then again, the Acclamator in the game is kind of like a bit of a smaller Victory Star Destroyer, so I don't think that would necessarily be a good ship for the Empire, because they already have like the Quasar that would be a way better carrier. They already have the Victory that is kind of in the... it costs the same, and it has very similar dice pools. It has similar upgrade bars, so I don't think the Acclamator on top of being like another ship, would actually add anything of value to Empire fleet rosters. I think that's already a bit of a problem where they chose to make the Venator the way it is. I haven't seen a lot of Imperial Venators. In the beginning when it came out, it was like, wow, cool, we have a Venator now, let's try and use it. But then again, most of the times if you want to have just something that runs in there, has black dice and shoots a lot, is like a victory is there, and then the Kuat is there, and then if you look at the Imperial Venator, it sits like kind of in between, like the ISD is 2 points more, the victory one is 20 points less, and where do we have it? The Venator is just somewhere in between those, and it doesn't really fill a purpose that the other ones don't already fill, because like it has Command 3, Squadron 3. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I think there is no cross-faction ship for the Empire that would make sense, that would actually add anything. And same for Rebels. Like if I've seen a lot of people wanting the Quasar for Rebels, and I myself would love the Quasar for Rebels, because in the Rebels series there is also I think one arc where they capture one of the Quasar cruisers and they use it as the Phoenix Nest, and they have a lot of squadrons in there, and it's very cool. The problem I see with that is that it would easily be like either you take away from its upgrade bar and then it's really not usable, because let's face it, it's very flimsy and it doesn't have a lot of dice. So if you take the carrying potential away from it, it doesn't really have a place. And if you leave the carrying potential in it, it's gonna be easily the best carrier for the Rebels, which would be weird to include like a cross-faction ship that now you can like activate with a token and expanded hangars and boosted comms and flight commanders. You can now activate 6 squadrons with flight commander, and no other ship for the Rebels can do that. So adding that in might be very, very brutal for everybody else, because then you would have such a good ship to like have a Biggs ball in front of it with Biggs, with Hera, with Wedge, with then maybe the new Sabine that also seems to have escort, so would work very well in that. Also 7 HP for a Biggs ball would be mwah. I think the new Sabine is going to be very, very good in the Mandalorian Gauntlet fighter, because she's going to have 7 hull points and escort, so you can use her with Biggs again, and he has something else that he can swap 7 damage onto, which is very, very good, because we've only seen other things like the YT 1300, I think it is, that Han Solo would usually go into, but the generic one also has escort, as we know, and also has 7 HP. The problem is it's only speed 2, and I think the Gauntlet fighter with Sabine is going to be speed 4, as the normal Gauntlet fighter is, because there wouldn't make much sense to make it go slower. And I think that's going to be very, very good for Biggs balls, to have one of those squadrons with a lot of hull to be able to put damage onto, instead of like being it on Biggs, on Wedge, on whatever you're trying to defend with that Biggs ball. Whew, that has been a very long rant. And then lastly, I feel like CIS is probably getting the worst of the bunch again, and that is personally makes me very sad, because I've watched all of the World Championship that got streamed by Iron Radio. If you haven't, I would like to recommend it very hardly to you, because they did a very, very good job of streaming it. They had very good commentary, and most of the times you saw top table. It was a very high quality of flying, high quality of production. It's a very good stream. It's on YouTube. I will put it also in the description. If you haven't seen it and you've got some spare time, go ahead and watch it. I would most recommend probably the second day, because on the third day, which was the top 8, the people played very, very reserved, very defensive, to just not lose hard and be out. So that was very well played on a tournament scale, but not so cool to watch. I think the Last Chance Qualifier, which was the first stream, and then the second day, which was the third stream, those were, for me, the most enjoyable games to watch. And what I wanted to say originally was we didn't see a single big spall doing very well, if I remember correctly. So there wasn't a big spall on top table in the last chance qualifier. There wasn't one on day 1, 2, or 3. Mostly for Rebels, what we saw was a big rogue ball with like Lando, with Hera, with Shera most of the times, like those guys. And like I would see why AMG would like to buff the big spall, because to me that is also a very fun kind of thing for the Rebels to do. Okay, so I've been done with my rambling on the rapid reinforcements. Now I'd also like to take like 5 or 10 minutes of your time to talk about what I think Armada would really like for new upgrade cards. And my reasoning with this is please do discuss in the comments if you see what I see, or if you would like something else. And also B, maybe one of the AMG employees goes ahead and watches my video and looks at those things and is like, well, that's actually a great idea. We should include that, and maybe we are gonna see that, and hopefully Rapid Reinforcements 3 is gonna come. I feel like the game there is so much more potential to add stuff that would also add to the game, and I just really, really hope AMG keeps updating, keeps adding more stuff, just so we have more possibilities of play. So the first thing I want to talk about is my personal favorite commander for the CIS that I feel needs some more stuff to work very well, and that's TF1726. Who of course gets to add a black die on attacking when the defender has a raid token. And for him to work, I would see multiple things that could add to him being very good. Right now he's just okay, and I personally, it's just Martuk is way easier to use, so most of the times people are like, okay, well, I'm gonna use Martuk for 2 points more, and then I can just leave all the raid tech at home. And like we have very good raid tech already with B2 rocket troopers and with Jedi hostage fleet command for the CIS. But what I would really, really like to see is a squadron with assault, because a squadron with assault would enable a CIS player to have like a carrier, yeet out those assault squadrons, then probably raid the opponent ship he's gonna try and shoot, and then add those black dice on the actual shot after your squadron command, which would be very, very cool. What I really like, AMG, please listen, I want a Django Fett in the game, please. Like, literally, why are you not giving us like a fire spray and it loses bomber, it gets assault, and it's Django Fett? Like, that would be so cool to me. Or I don't know, something with Django Fett. It doesn't need to be assault. You could just keep him, like, make him like Boba, just a bit different. Maybe like a seismic charge upgrade, something like when you activate, you may choose one obstacle at distance 1. Every squadron at distance 1 of that obstacle suffers 1 damage, or every other squadron at distance 1, so he doesn't suffer damage from his own seismic charge. But something like this would be very, very cool. Especially looking at squadrons for CIS, what I've seen people also hinting to what they would love is like a droid fighter that can just sit on the obstacles and then do something with the obstacles, because we've seen in X-Wing and also in the Clone Wars series often that these normal what are they called? Vulture droids, right? Yeah, vulture droids. Just stopping and then sitting on the asteroids and doing something from that. So that, in my opinion, that would be also a very cool idea to add some more obstacle play for the CIS. Second of all, I want to talk about a ship I would love to see with TF, and I think for him to really function very well, he also needs like a small ship that gets the opportunity to have a weapons team, so have ordnance experts on it, and it needs to have an ordnance slot. And that is like, for me, the biggest thing with TF is like, if I want to have small ships, and you kind of want to have those small ships to be able to have more B2 rocket troopers to add more raids to your opponent, but then you've got this hard sum battle refit, and it doesn't have any dice fixing for black dice. It doesn't have any use for black crits, and it's just, why would you add black dice to a hard sell? Because you don't really need them. And this is where I could see a cross-faction ship, but I would rather see like a new ship for the CIS that would be something like the Hammerhead torpedo frigate in gameplay-wise, not in actuality, because I think it would be silly to have like actual hammerheads flying on the CIS. It would be cool as well. I could see it, but I think there's better options. I don't particularly remember the ship I was thinking about, but there was like this ship in the expanded universe that looked kind of like a big floating helmet for the CIS that I could see being like a ordnance ship for them. And I feel like something that would have like weapons team, that would have offensive retrofit for, again, here when I'm talking B2 rocket troopers, and then a black like an ordnance thing, so you could add like assault proton torpedo, assault concussion missiles, just to throw those black crits at long range. That would make TF very, very good. And still, you have to invest heavily into him. You have to get your ships to medium range for other ships to really leverage him. So I don't think he would be oppressive, but I still think he would be very, very good. And actually, like, you would have to think, do I want to have Martuk, who's like my basic bitch, or do I want to have TF and build this really cool black crit fleet in there? So that is what I hope we will see for CIS. For Republic, I think for me that's really a no-brainer. I would love to see either more Venators, like in the kind of sense where we had the Chimera upgrade pack that gave us 2 more Star Destroyers, like a Simoon refit and what's the other one? The Kuat. We could also see like a Venator something refit that just loses even more dice, or just loses actual dice and gets even more squadron value, like something really ridiculous like Squadron 7 would be very interesting for me, like just being able to do that 8 squadron alpha strike with a Venator that's basically been stripped of cannons and having added in more hangar space. I could also see like a red dice variant having like 5 red dice and nothing else in the front, and then having like double turbo laser slot, kind of like the Simoon, would also make it very interesting for Republic, because I feel like they're really lacking a bit on the long range engagement possibilities. Of course, you have their long range engagement possibility with the SWAT, which greatly extends your blue dice range out of the front. But then if you take SWAT, you lose the squadron value, so you can't really use SWAT and a squadron. Or you want to have like a Venator, and that guy has like SWAT, and then you need like an acclamator to do your squadron commanding. And then it gets like really a bit complicated for list building. So what I would love to see is like more Venators. What I would love to see is like a standalone Architans. Something that could maybe be like a smaller carrier, so you would have to have a weapons team on there to make it be able to have like flight commander, because that would also be very good with the Venator that we never see, which is the Triumphant. Now, if you had something that just activates up to 3 squadrons, like, for example, an Acclamator for example, an Architans that, like, maybe has expanded hangars and flight commander, and now you can have that sit somewhere, activate squadrons, and your Triumphant instead is the one actually activating the squadrons. That could be very cool for me. Like, then I would like a another more durable ordnance ship than the Consular. For me, again, the Consular, the problem is you've got an ordnance, but you don't have a weapons team. Well, cool, now what am I gonna do? I can't reroll my black dice. I only have 1 black die everywhere. Like, kind of okay, but also kind of not really good. I would love a small base for Republic that has ordnance and weapons team. I'd love to see one of the Republic ships actually get an ion cannon. Like we haven't got like a single ion cannon upgrade here. That could also be like a Venator having an ion cannon, and then it's like we have 1 red die, we have 4 blue dice, and we have 1 black die out of the front. Something like that could be a very interesting variant for the Venator. So I feel like you could add, you could definitely add to the fleet roster of the Republic without making other things not viable anymore, and with giving them more fleet archetypes they could use. Because for me right now, most of the fleets, there's going to be a Pelda, there's going to be a Venator or a Victory, and then there's going to be squadrons, and that's... Or you gotta have your double Venator, double Pelta. Don't want to take away from that archetype, but it's basically you have 3 archetypes for Republic maximum that are really competitively viable. And like that's a lot again, but then again, we only had 1 guard player in the top 8 at World Cup. We only had 1 or 2 players in the top 26, I think, that played Republic. So I feel like Republic and Separatist still needs a bit more to be viable. And talking about that, I also think they need more admirals, which is why I really, really love the new admiral we're gonna get in Rapid Reinforcements. Even though he isn't even out yet, I'm already fanboying all over that admiral because he's gonna give us, hopefully, another good way to play Republic ships. I would love to see something like Gergerot or Medine for Republic, so they get to make their navigation charts better, because they are like horrible. If you look at the Acclamator, if you look at the Venator, if you look at the Victory, it's like, where am I gonna go? Why? They're just flying bricks. So I would love to have somebody make the navigate command better. Talking CIS, because I forgot about actually talking about other admirals. I would love to have something for CIS that would make the squadrons themselves better, because we've got that for Republic, definitely. Looking at Plo Koon, looking at Yularen, who can it's Yularen, right? Yeah, Yularen, who can repair his own squadrons. We've got Raiken for the Rebel squadrons. We've got Sloan for the Imperial squadrons. Why do we not have something cool for CIS squadrons? Like something where they might damage themselves to put extra damage on enemy squadrons, or something where you get to reroll an extra die if you have your opponent engage with 2 more of your own squadrons, so making swarm tactics work really well, or something that actually like something I would love to see something that is like the DBS 404, where while he's touching the defender, he may suffer damage to add a die. If you gave that to basically to the vultures, because their singular red die is not really good. If it would be 2 red dice, it would definitely be more damage potential, and if they had to always suffer a hull for that, they would also become very vulnerable to enemy flakking. So I think that would be a very cool trade-off, having like an admiral that says, well, now your vultures can go in and just ram your opponent basically. And we've seen this happen a lot in the Clone Wars cartoon, where vultures would be used to do like suicide attacks on Republic ships and really damaging those Republic ships in the process. Like I'm thinking back again at the arc over Ryloth, and I think it's the first season of Clone Wars, where Ahsoka has her first squadron command and she fucks it up really bad. And like Yularen is on the bridge of a Venator with Anakin, and then a vulture just comes screaming in and just blows up the bridge, and Yularen gets injured, and it's very good episode. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend watching that arc. I really love that. And also that's where we get to see Martuk for, I think, the only time in Clone Wars, but very, very funny. His accent is very great. Adding on to like looking at Republic and Empire, I think they're great where they are right now. You could definitely add, I've seen proposals for just having your ships, and for every ship you have an A and a B variant, or regarding the Empire, it's a 1 and a 2 variant. And I've seen people say, well, why don't you just add a print and play number 3 or a print and play Assault Frigate Mark II-C variant? That would just add like another flavor to the ship in a way that it hasn't been able to play it. For example, having like an Assault Frigate Mark II-C that has like Squadron 1 and it loses like 2 dice and it adds 2 black dice instead, and it loses the turbo laser for example, an ordnance, or I don't know, have, let's say, funny idea, have like an MC-30 ordnance frigate having all black dice everywhere, and then maybe 2 ordnance upgrades, or actually no ordnance upgrades, and like having more ships that focus on maybe like a dedicated flag roll, like something like the MC-80 flag cruiser, and then it gets a red, blue, and a black anti-squadron die or something like that. Like, I think you could actually, for Empire as well as Rebels, you could add like ships that are really good at flagging on top, because I feel like that is often an aspect where, well, you've got LTTs, you've got a lot of other upgrades that can go onto there, but I feel really having a ship kitted out for flagging and only flagging is most of the times not really viable. And I would love to see that being like a viable strategy. So I think that has been a lot of rambling. Also, if I've been a bit weird on the sound, I really apologize. My English is definitely not my first language, and I think you can hear that often. I also apologize for this just being me scrolling through Ryan Kingston and the screenshot taken from Ion Radio. Again, big shout out to Ion Radio. Please go watch their videos. They are very good. I really enjoy their content, and I feel like you can take a lot out of seeing the very good players playing at World Cup. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it if AMG sees that we are loving Rapid Reinforcements 2 even before it's out and we're cheering for it, which I am very much. I already think this is really, really great. This is like, since Sumo of all things happened, this is, I mean, it's also the only thing that has happened for Armada since then, but also this is just absolutely phenomenal. I love all of it. I love that Price is back. I love that we might get another Anakin. I love that we might get another Watambor. It's great. I want to have more of this. Please give us more stuff for Armada. It's just such a great game, and I think the community really loves the game. And if we see that AMG does more for the game, I think there's also a lot of people gonna be waiting for new ships from AMG, and I think we're all like, all the Armada players are so prepared to just buy more new ships that we haven't had yet. I think AMG, you just have to give it to us, and we're gonna love the hell out of it. Anyway, that has been all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.